Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books, the kids' fiction imprint of Cannon Press.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
Yeah. Versace what? What's the...
Well, I haven't checked the numbers till we get to 90.
How do you know to wait and to check?
I have this sense. I think this is 86, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Well, no. Let me check, not product placement, but let me check Canon Plus because it's right at the top. I'm sorry. This is 84.
Okay. That's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Not quite 90.
Octo quattro, as the French say.
I've learned long ago not to correct your Latin. So, Sic Semper Draconis, we let it go.
Yeah, no, we talked about this.
We did.
We've been down that road.
Yeah, it's correct.
It's correct. But, it's correct. Yep. It's correct. It's as intended. Draconibus just stupid.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple two pieces of Hollywood advice or gossip I wanted to figure
good.
if you had.
This is now a gossip podcast before we dive into the actual podcast.
These are about movies though, so
okay.
not something so boring as celebrities. First question, did you see they canceled Batgirl or whatever it was, Batwoman, $90 million in?
Yeah, the one they didn't even, yeah.
But it was almost done from what I heard. And so I was curious.
Sometimes you got to take the L.
Well, that's what I was curious about. Because then at the same time, they also, Marvel, that was Warner, obviously. Marvel also released She-Hulk, like the 30-minute long She-Hulk, which is taking an L, right? Because that's not a movie. That was so bad they literally cut it in thirds and released a third of it.
I honestly, with that one, I'm not sure what happened. I really like. I have enjoyed showing my kids some of Screen Rant's studio pitch meetings.
Yeah,
and they're just great. Well, not always, but frequently great and capture the real tone of it all. But
the actual pitch meeting
when they're the pitch for whatever it is. 10 Rings, the big Asian Marvel franchise starter they're trying.
Oh yeah.
What is it? What's it actually called? The Legend of the 10 Rings. Like,
I don't remember rings being in the title, but that could be because Rings of Power.
No, it's 10. It's 10 Rings, but it's like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the whatever. The pitch meeting for that one's amazing, and
just constantly adding characters.
The guy pitching
no
says,
purpose.
We decided that Marvel should finally, has never done any kung fu, has never done any martial arts or kung fu, except for that show you did. And the studio executive just said, no, we didn't. Like Iron Fists. Like, we never did that. It's like, yes, sir, you did. That show does exist. It's like, no, it doesn't. Just like this.
It has memory hold.
and that's She-Hulk. She-Hulk is like, that actually
didn't do that.
That didn't happen. Nobody in this building did that. No one was involved with that.
You read the credits and it's all fake, fake names.
It's just pseudonyms. No one made that. This did not occur. This did not happen.
I watched the actress. I would say the poor actress. But I think she did this on purpose. But she was defending. She said she took the role because it was a real compelling character. As it's like a green angry woman talking about how much anger she has to. So with that one, I guess, especially combined with Warner, those are two different approaches then, I guess.
Those are two different approaches to taking the L. This is actually, I don't know what you want to talk about today, but I'm going to at least kind of throw this out.
No Country
there.
for Old Men is what we're heading towards.
Good.
Yeah.
This is a good one to talk about. But something that you see happen is like people create incentives, and the world is incentivized. People in success and in powerful positions are constantly incentivized to seek mediocrity, like to settle. It's like to move towards minimum viable product.
Wouldn't they want greatness though?
Oh, they think they do, but very, very few people really do, and they are a pain in the hindquarters to be around for other people. And so,
okay.
It's like you get to a certain level where you're like, oh, I'm in at this level. You think about let's talk about football real quick. Kyler Murray, I think it was, signed this massive $250 million contract. In that contract, it specified that he is out of compliance if he doesn't watch 4 hours of game film a week.
Yeah.
$250 million contract.
So he would spend more time on his phone than that, just
Yep.
way more than just regularly.
Guys from a previous generation were just in shock. And some guys, even in his own generation, who are fighting for, really striving for a kind of greatness, were in shock because they are watching 4 hours of game film a day.
Right.
And he, as the franchise quarterback, as the leader of this franchise, they have to put this in. These contracts are public. And so everybody knows, like, oh gosh, this is what's.
That's what's expected. This
is what's stalling his development, is he's refusing to watch 4 hours a week. As a professional quarterback being paid this much money, he's refusing to put the work in. And it had to specify that he had to watch the film that they gave him to watch, that other people could not watch it for him, and that he could not be playing video games while it played on a tablet.
That's so sad.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, so he is a freak athlete. He's amazing.
Yeah,
and
so
he,
fast.
And he had to work.
Unbelievable.
And he had to work very hard to get to where he is. Like, he had to work to get to that. Having gotten there, like having now like grabbed the brass ring, where are all the pressures coming from? Where's the desire come from? What does all the momentum do? It's like, is the momentum push you towards greatness, further greatness? Once you have 9 figures in the bank, like, are you incentivized towards further suffering? Like,
yeah,
just, to put yourself through further suffering, or are you incentivized to like become sedentary, coast, and so on. And those people who are true animals, so jump over to The Last Dance. And I do actually think that, obviously it's not for everybody, but there are filtered versions, there are edited versions, the salty language of that documentary out. And it is very worth watching. Like The Last Dance. That's
such an interesting character study.
Yep. And it is everything about humanity is in that series.
Yeah.
So The Last Dance has every kind of human character in it.
If you're a novelist and need help with humanity, The Last Dance is probably the place to go.
And so the thing that was great about Jordan, really profoundly great, is that he had the lotto ticket of athleticism and ability and opportunity. And then once he had the opportunity, he actually struggled and suffered and pushed and like really ground to get to that next rarefied level, to strive for excellence. And people just don't do that.
It doesn't make him likable either. It makes him, you have tons of admiration and liking through that way, but you can see how he would have been.
Yeah. And one of my favorite
montages,
in The Last Dance is when one of his teammates says, he couldn't be nice. And, he wasn't nice to be around. And they go to Mike and ask him, like, did you have to sacrifice a reputation as a nice guy? And he kind of, I think, speaks beautifully about it. And as a character just says, basically, ask any of them if I asked them to do something I didn't do myself. Like, did I not do it myself first? And they all said they wanted to be winners. Every one of them said they wanted this and then wouldn't do it. They wouldn't reach for it. And as a coach, as I've worked with a ton of writers, I've worked with a ton of aspiring filmmakers. I have coached high school track athletes. I've coached basketball players. Mm-hmm. That is the natural state of ambition. The natural state of human ambition is to feel the emotional piece that is desire, but fail to motivate the actual effort that it takes to get there. To put those two things together, it's easy for all of us to ache. It's easy for anybody to ache and wish and want. And characters in movies, characters in films, are overly sympathetic. They get set up and are overly sympathetic in this particular situation that they yearn or they want. And then storytellers drift really quickly into they believe in themselves, and then they worked hard because they believed in themselves. And that's just bogus. That's just not how this.
It's not how.
It's not how this works.
Or achieving at the from the level of mediocrity to.
Yep.
Or you're saying once you've arrived
at any level.
Okay.
So once you've arrived at the level that you have achieved a measure of comfort. So when you are in a state of discomfort, and as soon as you achieve a level of comfort, some level of comfort, having the drive to to jeopardize that, and to not just jeopardize that position, but to then burn your comfort. So it's not just that you jeopardize your position there, because that's now at risk if you're pushing harder, but you actually did light your physical comfort on fire in striving for more. And so you look at the Old Testament, you look at the Jews in the wilderness, and that's another perfect character study. And everybody thinks that they would not have done that. That they would not have complained where the Jews complained. They would not have been that way. And the simple truth is, yeah, you would have. This is the human situation.
Yeah.
The instant there's a little discomfort, we whine and complain and desire, but we rarely want to do the hard thing that would address it.
Yeah.
The instant that discomfort is removed via grace, providence, anything else, we immediately take it for granted, assume that we deserve it.
Yeah.
And then and then are become entitled. And
I was just reminded of still reading through Joshua. But how old he was heading into the promised land.
Yeah.
And how he's so impressive. Because he was a grown adult when they headed in, then headed back to the wilderness for 40 years, then came in and then had all those conquests and screwed up one time with that clever Gibeonite plan.
Oops.
And that's the one time he did. But all the other times, his just relentless, hey, don't be afraid, be strong and courageous. We can do this. I just thought there's other old guys in the Old Testament who would have just quit.
Yeah, and who had a lot more mistakes.
Yeah, Eli comes immediately to mind. Someone with the same position, the same gift, and not that relentless drive.
Yep. And so you have Joshua shows up, and you have been along for the ride in the wilderness, which has not been an easy ride.
Literally everyone your age has died off.
Yep.
Except Caleb. They've been killed off by God.
Yeah. And then it's giant time.
Yep.
It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a certain, it's crazy. It's all the way crazy. This is the escalation.
We were excited to find that one paragraph where it says, and they took out all the Anakim. And, there's just one paragraph where this was the giant campaigan and they got 5 giant cities. The only places left are the place of Goliath.
Giant cities. I mean, it's cities.
Yeah.
It's wild. And so you have the way God tells stories is he always tells them on a rising scale of difficulty. Characters are always faced with a rising scale of difficulty, and this is the case with us in our own lives. And so you're a single guy and you struggle with single guy issues, and then you find the girl and you've got to win the girl. Then having won the girl, you have to actually lay down your life for the girl. And then the girl is pregnant and you're having a baby. And now it's like, oh, wow, there's a little soul that you're now going to answer to God for.
Yeah.
And you got to lay your life down for this little soul too. And you're going to just grind and grind and grind. And then that little guy's, hits toddler years, and it's hilarious. And there's massive blessing along the way. But now let's make it harder. Now let's actually stretch your faith farther and farther and farther. And now he wants to join the Navy, and you just have to trust God. There he goes. And now he's making choices about who he's going to marry. And you just have to trust God and trust God for those little kids that you actually now don't even have a hand in raising. And then, you're going to fall apart and you're going to just decay on the move, just kind of decay and start to lose your memory and your knees and everything else, and as you decay and as you march towards the grave, your faith is strained even more. Like you have to actually, as you approach the grave, you're letting go of all these things. At first, it's hard because God's putting so much in your hands. And before that, it's hard because he's put nothing in your hands. And then it's hard because he's put so much in your hands. And then it's hard because he's taking it all out of your hands. And then it's like, and at every phase, it's like, are you trusting him? Are you walking by faith?
It's almost like we segued directly into No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Just
which
right
is
there.
actually and this, we can segue in multiple ways because MJ strove to get there. And he did because he had a big hole in his soul and father hunger and other things. But it was never enough. You cannot coast. You cannot squander the opportunities. You have to really be present in the moment and know that it's slipping through your fingers and you're already out of time, and go now, do it now. But then you jump over to a piece of art like No Country, and you look at Christian art and Christian storytelling, and you look at how often people love to modify and adjust their goals into success, or into that comfort where it's like, it's okay that it kind of sucked. It's like, it's okay that it kind of sucked. No, because it had a good message, or, fill in the blank. And how many filmmakers are just kind of like, move on. Studios are like, will we make more money if we make it better? Mm-hmm. And if you look at the incentive on streaming platforms, you understand the answer is no. They won't make more money if they make it better. So they're finding the sweet spot of failure, where this is good enough to keep people watching and paying a subscription, but not so good that it costs us more time and money.
Yeah. Well, then another anecdote, exactly what you're saying about the level, is that the poker, MJ would play $1,000 blind poker. When that game broke up on the bus to places, he'd go up to the front of the bus where the guys were playing $1 or $2 blind, and he wanted to win that one just as much.
He was playing penny poker. He's playing,
And to him, it was the same. It was whether he won or not. Not what he won. It's just the pure fact of having conquered.
There must be conquest. There must be games and so on.
So you're saying the human temptation is not to want that. It's to settle. It's to arrive, or it's to avoid the hardship, I guess.
Yeah,
take the easy road.
It's to not jeopardize your comfort, having arrived at a certain place. So if you made it to the major leagues, to just try to hang on to your contract, prolong the sock away money, try to be smart, be comfortable. But if you get to a level where it's like, man, the risk, you're a franchise quarterback. Should you play it safe and just try to prolong your career, or do you try to win? Do you take risks with your body? Do you actually really get after it?
The Kirk Cousins approach versus I don't know, what's another quarterback who's gone for it? Maybe Cam Newton in his early years. I'm going to put my body on the line.
Yep. Or even Peyton Manning, playing after neck surgeries, and
that's true.
It's like, woo, this is, he couldn't even throw. He won his last Super Bowl. My 12-year-old could throw a football farther than he could.
checking down on every single play.
He was playing with his brain. That was it. But it is. You also look at when people strive for excellence and they start looking a little more like Joshua. They look a little more like David. They start looking a little more like some of the characters we know that God really loved, and they can be motivated entirely incorrectly. But we know God loves that. God loves it when people say, let's make it better. Let's make it better. Let's make it better. Let's push. We can do better. We can do better. We can do better. And perfectionism that's insufferable and hard to be around usually is actually just using the wrong ruler of perfection. They're willing for imperfection to exist in relationships. Radical imperfection in relationships, but they're not willing for imperfection to exist on how the table's set. So a mom is willing to snap on her daughter, and just she's willing to be really short tempered, but she's not willing to have the knife crooked by the plate. That's not perfectionism. That's imperfectionism. Like, she's not holding herself and her own attitude and her own emotions to the same standard that she's trying to hold the play setting to.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's great. I have no problem at all trying to hold the play settings and all those things to a really high standard, as long as you're actually holding yourself and
So
your
the
behavior
relationship,
and your tone
the
and your
parenting,
relationships
the
to
home.
the same standard.
Okay.
So if you are holding your own behavior, your own tone, your own kindness, the fruits of the Spirit, if you hold your pursuit of God and the fruits of the Spirit, if you're holding that quest to the same standard that you're holding, the way you want the lawn mowed, the way you want the laundry done, the way you want the bedrooms picked up, or the way you want your kids to make their beds. If those are like equivalent, then that's great.
So you talking theory of constraints basically here? Like, you get to pick the time, money, and the people, and you get to pick 2 out of those 3, sort of?
Kind of. I mean, it's a little bit like that.
Because doesn't that mean you have to compromise?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And where you should compromise, we all know immediately which one you should compromise on.
Yeah. The
So yeah. And so in the situation where you are looking at your kid having been inadequate, your kid can't quite make her bed, your son still isn't picking up his clothes off the floor. And you think, okay, here's imperfection. I'm not okay with this. It's like, well, how you handle this, you can create more imperfection, and you're going to create more lasting imperfection and a far more significant imperfection in your own behavior as a character and how you handle them. And in this relationship, in their early chapters as a character in their own novel. So
gotcha.
It's like, if you say, hey, kiddo, like, these, laundry's got to come up, and it's all warmth and it's all affection and they're feeling loved, and you're helping hold them to a higher standard. But if you're just like, Timothy,
pick up these undies.
Timothy, you little tick of a human. It's like, well, they might have left their laundry on the floor, but you just relieved yourself on the carpet. It's like, it's a far bigger imperfection. Like, you just screwed up. And so when you see people pursuing excellence and they pursue it in a broken way, and Michael Jordan did that. So it's like, he was really pursuing perfection, but he was not pursuing it. He broke other things, but he did have a point. And so when he says that they said they wanted to be winners, and I wanted that for them, like, and I know what it takes. And so I held them to that standard, but I held them to the standard I held myself to. And it turns out all these NBA guys, all these multimillionaires who all said they wanted to be winners, didn't want it that much. Like, they didn't, like, not that much. And then they have a whole montage showing all of his teammates holding the trophies and celebrating, as he's talking about how he wanted that for them.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted for them. I wanted what they said they wanted. And I just demanded that they do what it took and what I demanded of myself. And isn't that the nice thing to do? Isn't that nice? Like, isn't that kind? Isn't that
the golden rule for sure?
Yeah.
I mean,
and so it is, there's truth there. There's wisdom there. Now there's also, he has other issues. But when you move over to film and story and other places, I cannot tell you how often kids will tell me that what their favorite books are. Parents will tell me what their favorite family reads are, and they're trash. It's like they have something that they just really, really love. And it doesn't, like, okay, like, great. And I just say yay and high five them. I don't feel like I have to chase that, because the fact that they have this family culture of having shared a meal together and loving having shared a meal together, I don't have to, like, get down in their face and say, that's Hamburger Helper, and there's much better cuisine out there. Like, it's
cuisines.
Yeah. It's like, I don't need to do that. It's like, because the better thing is, like, the thing in the real world, this experience that they actually are sharing, the fact that they're breaking bread together.
So I think
in their imaginations,
most probably the writers out there, the creators, are listening and thinking, don't you have to be done at some point?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you're just saying we always want to be done before we've actually put the final polish on.
Always.
So that's not the danger. That's not the ditch we're falling into.
Yep. And then we also, the other thing is, from the creator side, we always want the fault for less success. We We want euphemisms and we want the fault for less success than we desired for our storytelling or for our creations to lie in the viewer or the reader or somewhere else.
Oh yeah, or the marketing.
The thing is, there's frequently
there's
that's
enough
true.
There's blame
That's
to
true.
go around.
It's often the case that somebody else screwed up, but there's also plenty of ways we could have made it better. And so with No Country for Old Men, which is one of my favorite films,
we have to get.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot that could be better.
Oh wow.
There's not much about No Country.
Okay, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because isn't it evil?
Isn't the movie evil?
Evil.
Evil. So evil
Well,
is pronounced.
I guess that's the big question is
to reference another great work of art. So evil, it's pronounced evil. It's in fruits of the devil.
Mike Myers. Yeah. Another, another one. So
another really
perfect.
funny movie that needs a filter. Just one filter, really.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways, No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
What's so perfect about it?
It's not perfect.
Humanly perfect.
But it's great. It is a great work of art.
So setting it up there, it's a movie with. Well, I guess we just got to spoil it. You need to pause.
Oh
it.
yeah, no, we're gonna spoil it. There are two significant imperfections. One more so than the other. One is a lot of people think that there's nihilism in the final scene,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think that's where there's nihilism.
Okay.
I think that's where we see justice and we see providence.
Okay, that's big. We can't get there yet.
Yeah.
I guess heading in with Brolin, which, by the way, I found out Heath Ledger was supposed to originally play that part, which is really interesting.
Heath Ledger would have also done well, but Brolin's better.
It does seem like I have a hard time seeing Heath Ledger in there, but
you would have done okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
So Brolin, idealistic.
If Brolin hadn't played that part, we wouldn't have been persecuted with the show Outer Range many years later.
Okay. All right. There's some damage downstream.
Which is one of the worst steaming morning gifts that's ever come along on the campsite. Don't watch it on Amazon. It's so bad. But Brolin, the cowboy character,
was invented by No Country for Old Men.
It's not like the only Western character he played, but it's so strong.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think as a character, it seems like his idealism in a totally unidealistic, bleak place, or his desire to succeed. What is it that makes Brolin? What is he? What is it? What is he? Is he everything young in that No Country for Old Men?
So there's, I could back up and say this is one of the things that smart people do. And maybe I'm over complimenting ourselves, but one of the things that smart people do when they watch movies is they over project meaning on things.
I can't stop analyzing.
Yes, I have to assign a meaning.
Well, just be glad I haven't referenced the poetry in Yeats yet. I've been saving that for myself.
So I could say that this is what I see here. I am not trying to say that this is what I'm not trying to make an objective claim that this is in fact what's happening with Brolin's character.
Okay.
I'm not confident enough to know that for sure. But what I think and what I see here is that Brolin is kind of an innocent, romanticized form of good old boy evil. And so the monologues you see from Tommy Lee Jones, and I this is how I watch the film, and I believe this is how it's intended. But the intentions ultimately don't matter. What matters is what's on screen and is it there? So Tommy Lee Jones is talking about how dark it's gotten, how evil it's gotten, how bad it's gotten, how bleak it's gotten. It's like it's turned a corner, and he has a romanticized, false view of the way evil used to be. And he's not talking, it's not a story about goodness. Man used to be good. It's the way evil used to be. Evil has gotten darker. In my day, in my childhood, evil was what? And America really does have a history of like a girl's first boyfriend, who is troubled, but man, boy, we all liked him. We have a history of really fawning all over outlaws and really loving outlaws.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wild West and bank robbers and
Jesse James is a hero. I mean,
so we don't look closely at it.
Yeah.
It's this euphemistic, overly romanticized, good old boy, gun pulling Western evil.
Yeah.
Back when you could just rob a train or a stage and, still be kind of like a sweetheart.
Yeah.
It's and the film Hell or High Water explores this too, where it's like, hey, let's rob banks and we're going to do this thing and we're going to be
doing it for the right reason.
And we're going to do all this stuff. And you know what? People are going to end up dead. It's still actually it turns into a very real evil anyway. So that film explores the same theme that No Country for Old Men does, but just from a different angle and different discussion. So Tommy Lee Jones's character has a thesis. He has something up for debate, and it's evil ain't what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's nostalgic for a different kind of evil.
In the new world, we've got, he's sick of drugs and drug running and all that, and then of course he gets
this gnarly. He gets this gnarly character, he's looking at this new kind of evil, and he's just thinking, this is No Country for Old Men. I have to tap out. Like I am from a different time when the evil was folksy and more John Wayne-ish,
more mustache and cape.
Yeah, it was a little, but really a little more like sparkling grin.
Okay.
A little
debonair,
more.
It's a bit debonair.
Yeah, a little more, kiss the waitress. A little, like, if that makes sense.
So it's not drug running guys you don't know who murder each other in the desert. It's hard bitten but lovable.
It's like Josh Brolin.
Okay.
And so you have Josh Brolin's character goes up against this new evil. You have this folksy, romanticized, a guy catechized, and he's tough. He's out hunting and he's a tough he's a legit cowboy.
Right.
And but he makes a choice to cross a line. He comes on a murder scene. He comes on this big, this big shootout scene, and he decides to steal the money.
Yeah.
And so he crosses the line, but he crosses the line in kind of this way that nobody really judges him. It's like, oh, we all root for him. It's all
you're like, well, it is a lot of money.
Yeah. It's like, so,
and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even like the way he talks sexually to his wife, the way all these things he does are in this, like, man, he's this wooden kind of, solid oak character,
sort of a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's this solid oak guy. He's the way men ought to be. And even though he's in a mobile home and he's hard to relate to, and he's not emotive, but he's a type. He's a Western type. So Josh Brolin shows up as a Western type from the imagination of America and Americans, and he is the way evil used to be. Just a lovable but tough as hell. Just
right. And we like it.
Yeah, we're like, man, we kind of like this guy. He's tough. But then, Chigurh is also tough, but just nihilistically dark and bleak and pointless
and terrifying. I mean, even his weapon is non-traditional with the stun pistol or whatever that is.
But he's executing. It's something you kill cattle with. He's executing people like cattle.
Yeah.
So he's showing up and he's killing people like they're cows, and they stand there still, stunned like cows, and he just puts it to their foreheads and is killing them. He is this force of darkness, and he's the new evil that Tommy Lee Jones is so afraid of, and he's the one that Josh Brolin took the money from. So he's the one, the new evil that Josh Brolin has crossed. And so I think Josh Brolin represents this old type, the type that we forgive, the type we kind of love, somebody who crosses the edge of the law and makes America love him. And it's like there's this Then there's this new evil coming across the border in the South, which is drug evil, cartel evil, highly funded evil, our vices having consumed us evil. Now, Tommy Lee Jones, when he goes and talks to a character in the wheelchair, and the guy is like, listen, dude, it's always been this. There's always been psychopaths. Then he tells a story about, guy, in their own family getting gunned down 100 years ago. Just like slaughter has always been there. It's never, the romantic ideal has never been real. So he's arguing that Tommy Lee Jones is deluded. It's always been, it's always been this dark. It just is.
It's never been a country for old men.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the debate. And so Brolin,
almost succeeds.
But the one place I think nihilism creeps through in the film is Brolin's death.
Okay.
Where it just happens like casually and off screen. And it's just like, oh, whatever, he's gone.
So you don't mind, I mean, I was going to say, it doesn't seem like he had to die.
He didn't have to.
Okay.
He didn't have to, because it's a discussion, it's a debate. And so as you're playing out the debate between this older kind of evil and this new kind of evil, and these two,
his name, Chigurh.
Chigurh is more fun to say. Just Sugar. I think it's Chigurh.
I know it starts with a CH. It is not pronounced ch. So
yeah, Chigurh.
Okay.
But it's basically, I think that what they took away from us was a glamorized shootout. What they took away from us was the thing that has the OK Corral scene. They took away the thing that has made that character romanticized.
They took away the crowning.
Yeah, he died in a motel because his mother-in-law, as an idiot, his wife didn't listen to him and told her mom, who told a well-dressed Mexican where he was, and got her son-in-law killed. And we weren't there. We didn't see it. We don't know how it went down. Yeah, it's just.
So that's the nihilism, you think?
Yeah.
Because they want you to stop caring.
The nihilism is just like,
saying,
oh, that guy we gave you this whole thread for, the guy we were following, the guy who's one thread in this major debate that we're having, the topic that's been postulated before the House for debate by this particular work of art. And oh yeah, he's just face down. It's like it's over there. That just happened. That just happened over there.
Okay.
And has nothing really to do with any of this. Just he's just kind of dismissively ended.
Well, that totally matches with All the Pretty Horses. The same thing. Yeah. Of John Grady, the other Cormac McCarthy book, one of my favorites, but the same sort of thing. He's off sort of being an outlaw in Mexico, and then runs into a kid who actually stolen a horse. And that's when everything goes bad, because he thinks he can just sort of be his own romanticized Western
He can be an
character.
idea. He can,
And then when it gets real, all he wants is to get out of it. But then of course Cormac has to pull out but there's still the beauty of these key moments in the story, and that's, I think, how probably what makes that so compelling, the artistic aspect of it.
And so I really like No Country for Old Men. I think that they should have really kind of given it a thought of how to better conclude their own thought process, how the art could better conclude the debate between the two, the new evil, the old evil, the kind of romanticized. Can a romanticized good old boy made out of oak, can he actually successfully escape? Can he grab money from true evil and true darkness and get away, or not? And if not, then how do we close that loop? How do we close that loop in a more effective way? And I understand what they're doing. I totally understand what they're doing when they have it happen off screen. And I think there's a case to be made artistically for it.
Well, it was so surprising.
Yeah, exactly. It's so whoa. I mean, it really does strike.
I really thought he'd made it, because it's this huge odyssey, and then he comes back home finally, and that's when. And
so it really does have that kind of potent shock. So there's a case to be made for it, but I think its effect is more just purely nihilistic. It
Yeah.
makes it more meaningless. It makes the whole thing meaningless instead of an actual meaningful discussion, a meaningful struggle between the two things Tommy Lee Jones has talked about. It becomes a meaningless, thing. And then we get to the end and we have Chigurh,
Yeah.
in his end, he's limping away broken. And we aren't told what's going to happen to him, but we've now been given the foreshadowing, which is just like
He's broken.
God will take care of him. Like, it's just, he can be as tough as he wants. Like, he can be as tough
But a
and
car
brutal.
wreck can happen.
He can be as
can
brutal
get
as
you
he
anywhere.
wants, but
Yeah.
there's enough, like, death is coming.
Yeah.
Like, death and destruction are coming for him. Even he's not immortal. Like, he's gonna die. He's going to be killed. He's going to end.
Yeah.
Judgment's coming.
Okay, so what do you think about the coin flip at the end?
I think it's the rebuke of Chigurh's nihilistic worldview. He's not, the woman is telling him, like, you are the one choosing. Like,
I won't choose.
You're still the one choosing. It's not even chance. You're the one choosing.
Okay.
And she is killed, but she is the one. She wins the argument. She's pointing out that his concept of chance-based execution is flawed and fake.
Because he's executing people.
Yeah, he's still the one choosing.
Yeah.
It's still him doing it. It's not chance. It's him. And so she gets that last word, followed by him being smacked by a car, right outside. So I love the film. I think it's incredibly tense. I mean, it's so well made. It is so incredibly difficult to make a movie that tense with no score. If you go entirely
How does it not?
scoreless,
I hate that I didn't notice that.
so if you just pull,
Yeah, the smart guys.
yeah. So if you just say, hey, you know what? Let's tie a hand behind our back, shall we? And one foot too. And let's tell the story, and let's take the tool that people use more than any other tool in this.
Yeah, the tiny violin.
Yeah, in this art form, the thing that is used as the cue to the viewer of, like, how they should be feeling. Like, should you be nervous? Should you be optimistic? Which way should we take the music? And watching Lost, we're chipping away at season 1 with my kids right now, and my 12-year-old asked a question of a scene. She's like, what's like some question, and her sister said, the music says, like, just
there you go. It's the laugh track. It's
the music says that this is which direction this is going. The music says this is like, we're going here, we're going there. So to have scenes that are legitimately off the charts stressful, and to have a movie that is full of brooding pressure that never feels slow, that is just like, it is a pressure cooker. This movie is a pressure cooker. And have a movie that's a pressure cooker while cinematic, like beautifully shot, with really strong performances and well-written script, but gorgeous cinematography.
Yeah,
And
that's the other thing. It's just the color of the film.
yeah, gorgeous cinematography, incredibly shot, brilliant performances, and just a pressure cooker of a story. And to do that without any musical cues of any kind is really not a simple thing. That is not an easy thing to do. So, I mean, as somebody who, when you're cutting stuff together and you're looking at it and you're like, do you know what would really help? Like, we got to get some mood, some tone, something ambient, something in the background, even just elevator music, just anything to help a scene and add that dimensionality to it. So the fact that they were able to do that is really impressive. It's one of my favorite films. And so while I can quibble and pick of things I'd love to see, I'd love to mess with the ending a little bit more.
You want it to be clearer? Or do you think, I mean, I guess we haven't talked about Tommy Lee Jones. He's just eating cereal while it all happens.
I would love for him not to look at the bottom of his shoes when he walks out of the house. And for the sound of sirens after he's hit by the car to just start elevating. That's what I want at the end. Those are two very small things.
Okay. Do you think that that's a reference to what he thinks people are? Tommy Lee Jones, like looking at the bottom of his shoe for none of this matters.
No,
Wiping
I think
stuff off.
No, it's not Tommy Lee. That's Chigurh who's looking.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So Chigurh is looking at the bottom of his shoes when he steps out of the house, and that's the cue that tells us he killed the woman. We haven't heard a gunshot. We haven't heard anything else. He looks at the bottom of his shoes, which implies that he's checking to see if there's blood on the bottom of his shoes as he exits the house. I would rather.
I was gonna say I thought it was unclear, but I see. I think that's textually pretty strong.
Yeah. So I would like for it to be unclear.
Okay.
So I would like for him to step out, and we aren't quite sure. Like, did her argument rattle him, and did he not kill her? We haven't heard a gunshot. Did he kill her? Did he not kill her? I'd rather leave her argument hanging, and we've not seen her body. We don't know that she's dead. We're not sure whether her argument landed with this guy or whether she defeated him. We don't know whether she defeated him. And so I'd rather him not look at the bottom of his shoes and cue that. And then as he's hit by the car, and the boys are coming to him, like, which is another great little thing, that it's children come to this great evil. Like this great evil needs the assistance of children in this moment. I would just love to get sirens up, so there's just more of a sense of he's done, and he's done now. You know, have things coming right there, and then jump back to Brolin. I would at least, people as talented as the Coen brothers, I would love to see them play out that scene,
even if he ends up dead.
Yeah, he ends up dead, but
yeah,
I would love to see them play out that scene. I'd love to see Brolin play out the character realizing. Like, I'd love to see Brolin's realization and recognition. Like,
Nate wants the finger in the wound.
Yeah, that I want to see Brolin process the realization, whatever you want the audience to discover, like the audience to learn from that scene, from the fact that Brolin's character is failing and coming up dead. I would like to see Brolin's character learn that first, in that moment, in that flash. Anyway, at least to have shot it and seen it as an alternate scene, I would love to, like, side by side, compare. So anyway, it's one of the best. It's up there.
Yeah. And you, just to be clear, you showed this to your 12-year-old filtered, right? Was that the one I think you mentioned that during Family Movie Night episode that you guys?
I think I've there's a chance that I've shown this to a 12-year-old unfiltered.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what's in there.
There's not language. I think there's some language that we would have pulled, and she would have just sort of done the look away.
Yeah,
sort of like, when he's strangling a guy early. There are scenes that I would not want her to fully experience.
Yeah,
but her tolerance, with me, like with me and processing this. There's language I would want out. I think the Woody Harrelson character in some other places, I think it was filtered, filtered for language primarily. And I think I dialed down some of the stronger, spicier killing.
Yeah.
But man, this really makes me want to just go watch it right now. It is,
I know, me too.
It's a fantastic film. My daughters are doing a movie, like a movie club with their college age cousins, and they haven't had time to do a lot of discussion through a lot of things, but they've been chipping away through some of the movies we've discussed, and Children of Men and Don't Look Up and other things, and realizing the discovery that movies are meals, rightly understood, and they are not they're not candy. It's like, this is, a lot of people just treat it like it's candy. And sure, they can be. A show can be that way, but that the process of encountering a story, a narrative that's complicated, that has a mix of flavors, that is not just happiness on your tongue. It's not just a Hershey's Kiss. It's like, oh, actually, you like this character and he's dead now, and you need to think about this. And is Clive Owen dead at the end of Children of Men? And it's like, looking at this whole dystopian framework and everything else, and Don't Look Up. What happens at the end of Don't Look Up? And it's a discovery that like there's actually a lot of depth of enjoyment when you start peeling away what this medium can accomplish, what it can do.
Yeah, that's so fun.
How much it can communicate. And it really is fun. It's really fun to do with people who are doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So doing it with teenagers next to you brings back all these other movies.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed showing them things like The Truman Show and having them just like collectively spit it out. And I remember a lot of my college friends were far more affected by it. And I think times have changed enough.
I hate to say I like the movie.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But watching it again with them, it's not like I loved it. But I found it to be one of those films that was very worth discussing. It was like we had a lot of conversations around it. I remember I'd seen it and argued with friends about it in college. Then in grad school, it was like, we're showing this in philosophy club. And then now with the nature of phones and privacy and social media and everything else, and people voluntarily doing this to themselves, it was really interesting to watch my kids react to it and just be like, blah.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of spit it out and reflexively. And topics that I found interesting were actually incredibly dated and stale and not like it just everything had changed.
That's true.
Which is interesting. We'll talk more about movies, but
that's
No Country for Old Men is up there on my list. It's really up there.
There we go.
Yeah. Up there next to The Gospel Road, starring Johnny Cash.
Wow.
I'm joking.
Okay.
It's one of the worst movies ever made.
Okay.
One of the worst Christian movies ever made.
I just swallowed it. I was like,
and it's
okay.
And it's Johnny Cash, so I find it hilarious and I love watching it because it's really funny.
Okay.
It's one of those blonde Jesus movies. Very, very blonde Aryan Jesus, and then cut to Johnny Cash on a rock with the Bible folded in half, and he would read passages, and then cut back to blonde Jesus. It's like, oh boy. Anyway, sorry, that was distracting.
That's a little extra.
That's a little extra. On that note, we will end SASF episode 84.
Done.
Peace.
When my eyes were opened up.
Hey, it's Brian Cole, and I recently got an email from one of our audio listeners who was saying, hey, I've already listened to both Anne of Green Gables books on Canon Plus, and I'm wondering where the rest of the series is. And I thought, you know what? I should tell people what's gotten onto Canon Plus recently, in case they too, like me, have not yet listened to Anne of Green Gables. All I know about Anne is that I think she has red hair, and I think she broke a writing slate over a boy's head. Those are the two things I know. Anyways, I wanted to encourage you to take a gander at our children's section, our classic section, and our writing section, because those are kind of three things that overlap with what the soul food crowd is into. Especially, we've been listening to the children's section with all its E. Nesbitt stuff, 5 Children and It, Secret of the Amulet, The Treasure Seekers. Funny stuff, great narrator, and fun to listen to. Of course, if you're looking for good narrators, you also do need to check out Cannonball's own Brave Ollie Possum. If you don't have the Glorch voice as a bedtime routine, I don't know what you're doing. And if you aren't tired of my voice, you can listen to My Father's Dragon, which for some reason I went ahead and read, I think because I'm fond of it. Now you too can listen to me struggle to separate all of the different creatures' voices and keep them straight. Yeah, that's not the best pitch for My Father's Dragon, but it is a good story, which is, I believe, becoming a Netflix series soon. Last thing you might want to check out is the classic series, the Old Mother West Wind series by Thornton Burgess, a bunch of modern-day Aesop fables with tragedy, success, and adventure, all about animals in a wood. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff on there. That's just kind of scratched the surface, but you SASF listeners can try it out for a month on Canon Plus for the low, low price of 99 cents with the code SASF99, SASF99. All right, that's enough of me. Bye.